Під вогнем.
Hello, dear viewers. Today we have a special guest, guy who has been fighting in the Special Forces unit of the Security and Defense Forces of Ukraine since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. He will tell funny stories from the front line and life hacks in using weapons. Hello, friend.
Hi,
Tell me, please, how can we introduce you?
Max.
Can we name the unit in which you serve?
I guess it's better not.
Okay, we cannot name the unit, but let's name the direction and operations in which you participated.
Well, from what can be told, I will probably name combined military operations with adjacent subdivisions of the security forces of Ukraine. Kyiv region, regions adjacent to the border of our enemy. Bakhmut direction, we held the city with adjacent forces and then we left the city. Avdiivka direction, coke chemical plant.
How long were you in the Avdiivka direction?
About 8 months. Since the beginning of that time when the Russians did not very actively use artillery there, those who are into such things remember that times. Russians knew the thickness of the ceilings in the workshops and actively worked there with KABs, guided bomb units. And definitely what was nearby, that is Berdichi or Cheretyane, when it was all under our control, the Russians tried to assault these settlements dozens of times a day with meaty assaults. Those who were there at the time probably remember how one column of military vehicles was burned, and then, in an hour, another column of military vehicles again, and no one could believe that they were just putting their people in a daze like that.
The audience will be interested in the following. Everyone has an idea of how difficult the day of ordinary infantrymen on the front line is, how they endure all the everyday hardships of service, and what does the day of a special forces soldier in a combat zone consist of.
As we cannot share all the moments so that our enemy does not take advantage of this, I would say this way. The everyday life of a special forces soldier at the front line is not much different from the day of an ordinary infantryman. We make more focus on analyzing the situation on the front and select those means of defeat that allow us to help the adjacent units which we interact with and choose those scenarios that the battlefield dictates us. We have specialists from various specialties, engineers, FPV drone pilots, different specialists in drone systems, snipers and other that we cannot name. Therefore, when we have some difficulties when it is necessary to defeat the enemy, we can choose those methods, people, weapon that are appropriate for those specific conditions. We still haven't forgotten the topic of sniping. Our snipers work constantly. In general, we do not have such situations when we just sit in the basement. As ordinary infantrymen, we repeatedly find ourselves on the line of fire.
Today, all Ukrainians live in total stress. However, we are optimists and save ourselves with the help of humor. It is known that war leaves its imprint on humor. Tell us about examples of a black humor in war, or humor in general in war.
Humor is the main component of maintaining the fighting capacity of any unit and those people who are side by side with you on the battlefield. Jokes on each side and unwavering support are the main foundations that help us hold the front line for almost 3 years. All of us have own difficulties. Black humor is our constant companion. For instance, when someone did not return from a position for a long time, we would put out packages with a sign with his name written on it, while meeting him after a long absence. It's as if we are already waiting him in packages. It was good fun. It's important not to go too far with the black humor, otherwise someone can overreact and you can get punched in the face. It is also important to take into account the moral state of the person you want to take a prank on, and do not forget the law of karma. For example, once while handling a weapon I accidentally shot myself. And those who laughed the most during this accident, they found themselves in the same situation after a while. If someone screwed up, you shouldn't laugh at him or try to look better at the cost of someone else's failure. People are divided into two types: those who had an accidental shot and those who are still waiting for it.
In conclusion, we see that we should not anger God. And when you are in a group of aggressive young people, respect for each other should flourish in this group. And if someone makes mistake, you don't need to criticize them too much, because tomorrow you could be in their place, right?
It's true, exactly.
Tell us about your journey in the security and defense forces. How many years have you served, and have you been in other units?
My path began in 2014, when the Russians occupied my hometown. I immediately moved with my family from the occupied territory and joined the ranks of the defense forces. I wanted to join the Special Forces unit, and after a while, thanks to my efforts, I ended up serving in its ranks. Therefore, from the beginning of the full-scale invasion, I defend my country in the ranks of my unit.
It turns out that you were in both regular units of the Armed Forces and the Special Forces unit in which you are serving now. Can you tell us more about what types of weapons you have had to work with?
Look, I cannot name what is currently in service of my unit. Let me name the shooting complexes which I worked with. Let's talk more specifically about assault rifles. There are things like SCAR, Steyr AUG, Polish Grot, MK18 Original. Daniel Defense is very good product. I like it in general. Colt M4A1 of different versions from the manufacturers of the original Colt and Fabrizio Nazionale, what they produce under license of the US Army. Basically, these are more or less AR systems. Many more manufacturers can be mentioned, but it is not so significant. Now I use Milicon. I take it on hunting with me. This is a hunting weapon. I take it on a wild boar hunt.
It's what a hunter, yeah?
Yes, it's written on my carbine. What a hunter. I will say my impressions about the already mentioned shooting complexes. I don't like SCAR because he has really enormous recoil force. Many people say that it is reliable and everything in this way, but this is my subjective opinion. You don't need to shit in the comments right there, dumbest motherfucker, shit ass, take off the balaclava and go home to mom. You don't need to write that. That is my subjective opinion. Someone likes SCAR, he made a tuning of it and runs with it. Any weapon is good with which you shoot well and perform your combat missions effectively. I chose weapons for myself, tuned them for myself, did everything according to my own preferences. I did not like SCAR because of its enormous recoil force and its ergonomics. The one on the AR platform I liked was the original MK18 complex. It's a very good machine, except that the handle is a bit heavy, and while holding it, the left hand begins to get tired. Then there are the classics, just the classic M4, I really like it. The M4 is a very cool machine that comes complete with a quad rail. I guess Troy's company which provides it to the US Army with a fire transfer handle. It's a nice weapon, nicely made, well-fitting parts. If you delve into details, you can see that this is a really reliable army weapon. There is a myth that the AK Kalash is very reliable. Believe me, I've seen AK jammed just like that. Most often it is sand or some kind of dust is stuck in it, and it does not stand on a combat stops. Or it jams when the shutter frame reaches the end and cannot go forward on the trigger. There are also such stories. And everyone who works with AK, guys, you can write what you think in the comments. Concerning the M4, I will say that it is really a reliable weapon. But guys, look, do you remember the videos where it's shown that in the Soviet Union two guys holding an AK on two sides and then one of them steps on it and jumps over the wall? Well, if they use weapons like that, then they have an S instead of a head. It should be said about M4 that it is not for stupid people. This is for those who use their brains for thinking. For instance, a dust cover for closing the shutter frame. It was not invented in vain. When you bring the weapon to combat readiness, put on the safety, you close this dust cover, so that external abrasive materials do not get there, which can lead to increased friction and jamming of your weapon. In addition, you must keep the chamber and barrel clean. Someone will say, how am I going to clean it when I am in the trenches? Look, I also stay in the trenches. In the same way, it is all crushed by the soil and everything else. It is important to keep the dust cover closed. And the section of the barrel, if you use a sound moderator or without it, you should seal it with scotch tape, isotape or any other tape to prevent dirt from getting there. A broken barrel and everything like that can be the consequences of not doing that. You have to understand that you have to protect your gun like yourself. If you neglect to take care of your weapon, accusing the fact that you are in the trench and you are tired, it can have the result in you being killed there. I always carry a nylon stretcher with me, and I have oiled patches in a small blister pack. If you know that the rifle got dirty, the truth is that you always have time to fix it. You can perform a quick cleaning in the field. No need to clean everything. All you need is a clean bolt carrier, and run a single oiled patch through the barrel. For me, this procedure takes no more than 2 minutes. Trust me, no matter where are you, you can find 2 minutes to do it. For example, my weapon. Now 9,000 shots have been fired at it. All I changed in it was only gas tube. Now the barrel of my weapon is not chromed. It's just a black barrel, it seems, with carbonation. I'm just a user. I don't like to read brochures, to be honest. I don't care about all this bullshit. It did not get rusted at all. Even it was examined with a borescope.
Is this a Milicon in your hands? Friend, tell us about the Milicon, because we have already met with the owner of this brand and heard a lot of good reviews about the Milicon, about their quality, and we know that these carabines are used in the army on a par with regular units of weapons.
The story began with the fact that when I returned from rotation and hung out with friends, I wondered which carabine based on the AR-15 with the usually DIY system would be better to buy. Friends suggested that I should look at the products of the Milicon company, which I had not heard of at the time. I came to the store in Kyiv and looked at the device for the quality of processing and fitting of its parts. From my experience, I already knew the main points or weaknesses and advantages of the AR-15 system and understood that it can be taken. And now I will show you why now, with 9,000 shots fired, I am still confident in this weapon. This carabine was with me for several years as an ordinary staff weapon, which was in hunting conditions, let's say so. He fought the same way as I did. He also sometimes fell down. Someone will say, you say that you need to take care of your weapons, but how did you let it fall down? Guys, believe me, when you get out of armored vehicle or from a car in a tight place, it happens that the weapon falls out and you yourself fall out too. This is a completely common situation. This carabine has all the details very well manufactured and fitted. Where the cam pin turns. On some AR systems that are poorly made, after firing 501,000 shots, such a typical strip has already been gnawed out in the recess that looks like a crescent moon. At the same time, mine looks like new, only with the paint removed. This is an indicator of the quality of the materials used by the manufacturer. Because I have seen with my own eyes carabines in which the bolt closes poorly after 1,000 shots, due to such gnawed strip. Honestly, this applies to civilian AR systems, because I have not seen such a thing on military ones. The other thing you need to pay attention to. What else should be taken into account while choosing the AR systems? On those AR systems where the parts are poorly fitted, the backside of the bolt hits the lower and then goes into stock tube. As you can see in my weapon, everything still looks like new and works normally, even with my shooting. Those who will shit in the comments as how I have counted 9,000 shots. Look guys, it's just that if you imagine how many magazines I used for training and how many training sessions I had with this carabine, then it fired 9,000 shots definitely. And during this period of time I replaced only the gas tube, which is a consumable on AR systems. Therefore, Milicon is my choice and I will continue to use it for its intended purpose.
Thank you for the conversation and for your exploits. It's nice that you have a Milicon. Indeed, the slogan of the manufacturer of this weapon is confirmed: serving good guys in bad lands. That is, it serves good guys in bad, difficult times in bad, difficult lands. Friends, we shot this video for you at the Taktika shooting range in Kiev. You can come here and shoot as fun as our hero did today. It was nice to see you.
Thank you, my friend. I was glad to see you.